you're listening to Bold, Brown and British, a weekly podcast where we discuss what it means to be a brown person in a Western world. We've spoken about colorism, third culture identity and dating amongst many others on this podcast. So if this sounds like the type of content that you want to hear, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher or wherever you get your podcasts from. You can also message us on Instagram. The handle is @BoldBrownAndBritish, or drop us an email via our website at www.boldbrownbritish.com. So without further ado, let's get on with this week's episode. Hello, my wonderful samosas. How are you? Welcome back to another episode of Bold, Brown British, the podcast where we discuss what it's really like to be a modern brown person in this society. I'm your host, Quarina, and today we're going to chat about something that affects nearly every woman that I know, including myself. You guessed it. Unpaid labour and the invisible work that we women do. Now, before we get into it, let me put a disclaimer out there. This is not going to be one of those episodes where we bash men. Nope, not about that life. The episode is all about promoting equality and equity in our homes, in our workplaces, and in society as a whole. So men, feel free to stay tuned. We'd love to have you here. Alright, are you ready? Grab your favourite chai, let's get comfy on the sofa and dive in. Let's start with a little thought experiment. Picture this. A man spends decades working in his job, paying his taxes, contributing to his pension fund. He finally retires at the grand age of 65. He gets his farewell due at the office, a shiny gold watch, maybe a cheeky pint down at the local pub, and off he goes into retirement bliss. Now he can spend all his days pottering about in the garden, watching every single episode of Antiques Roadshow and taking leisurely walks without a care in the world. Blissful, right? Meanwhile, let's think about the modern woman. She could be anyone from a high-flying executive to a full-time housewife, or more likely, a bit of both. She's the one who's been juggling a career, family responsibilities, and everything in between. But here's a burning question. When does she get to retire? I mean, it's not like there's a retirement party for doing the school runs, right? There's no gold watch for managing the family calendar. And last I checked, there's no pensions for domestic duties. So when exactly does she get to get back and enjoy her retirement from these unpaid labour? Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on unpaid labour. It's the mental load, the invisible work, the stuff that keeps everything running smoothly while often going completely unnoticed. It's a kind of labour that's expected, yet rarely appreciated or compensated. And let's be honest, this burden often falls disproportionately on women. I can hear you nodding along already because this is the kind of thing many of us already know. Instinctively, but may not always articulate. So let's break it down. Having a bit of a laugh, hopefully along the way, and talk about how we can create a bit more balance in our lives. The mental load. First, let's talk about the mental load. This is something all women carry, like that handbag full of random bits and bobs you always end up with. You know, receipts from 2012, lip balm you thought you lost months ago, and mysterious crumbs that you have no idea how they got there. Well, the mental load is a bit like that, only it's in your head. Imagine your mind is a bustling office, complete with sticky notes on every available surface. There's the grocery list, the kids' school duties, the work deadlines, birthdays, anniversaries, the neighbour's cat's feeding schedule. Oh, and don't forget about booking that next dental appointment. It's a constant hum of background noise. It's like when you've got the telly on in the background while you're cooking dinner and you're trying to follow a recipe from Jamie Oliver while also keeping an ear on the evening news and your phone and text for your next text with your best friend. Multitasking to the extreme. But here's the thing. While it may feel like a superpower, carrying this mental load is utterly exhausting. It's not just about remembering things, it's about anticipating, planning, and organising everything. And somehow women are expected to do this seamlessly without batting an eyelid. I remember chatting to my friend Aisha the other day. She's a superwoman, honestly, managing a full-time job while raising two brilliant kids. She joked about how her husband, bless him, seems to only have one task, taking out the bins every Tuesday. Meanwhile, she's memorized the entire family's schedule for the next decade. Her husband even asked her once, "Have you seen my socks?" To which she replied, "I don't know. Have you checked the sock drawer?" It's these little things that make you realize how much mental energy goes into managing a household. It's not just about the tasks, it's about the expectations. And those expectations can be as heavy as lifting all your Tesco bags all at once. And those expectations can be as heavy as lifting all your Tesco shopping bags in one go. One does not simply make two trips, right? The invisible work. Now let's chat about the invisible work. What exactly do I mean by this? Well, it's the kind of work that keeps the household running like a well-oiled machine, but doesn't get recognition that it deserves. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, grocery shopping, the list goes on. These tasks are essential, but they do go unappreciated. Let me tell you a story from my own life. There was a time when my partner genuinely believed that the laundry... I can't say that, can I? Let me tell you a story from my own life. There was a time when someone in my life, must not be named, genuinely believed that the laundry magically did itself. Bless his innocent heart. The clothes would go into the basket and somehow reappear in his wardrobe all fresh and folded. It was like Hogwarts had opened a satellite branch in their utility room. Jokes aside, this is a serious issue. It's about the countless hours that women spend doing tasks that often go unnoticed. It's the hours spent ironing shirts, tidying up the house, making sure that everyone is fed and happy. It is as if there is an invisible force field around these tasks that renders them invisible to the naked eye, or at least to some people's eyes. This isn't just a gripe about housework. No, it's about the recognition that this work is valuable and deserving of appreciation. It's about acknowledging that keeping a home running smoothly takes effort, time, and energy. When does a woman retire? So let's revisit that question. When does a woman retire from all this unpaid labour? It's not just that cheeky rhetorical question, because it's a genuine concern. Men typically retire from their careers and can enjoy a life of leisure. As I said, pottering around the shed, joining the local golf club, perhaps becoming overly enthusiastic about bird watching or cricket. But what about women? Whether or not they've had a career, been a full-time homemaker, or balanced both, they seldom get a clear break. Even if a woman had gotten retirement from her career, she's still expected to cook, clean, and do all of the housework. I remember my grandmother saying, "A woman's work is never done." And how right she was. It's like an ongoing loop of tasks, responsibilities, and expectations that don't just end at retirement age. Let's imagine a woman who spent her life looking after her family. She's done the school runs, she's cooked thousands of meals, ensured that everyone has clean clothes. When retirement age rolls around, that work doesn't stop. In fact, it often intensifies with grandkids entering the picture. Now she's babysitting, helping with homework, probably still doing a fair share of the housework. So when does she get to have a moment of blissful retirement? The crux of the matter is that women are often expected to shoulder the emotional and practical workload without complaint. But let's be clear, this expectation is rooted in outdated stereotypes that does need to be challenged. The role of societal norms. Now, I'm not here to rant without a purpose. Instead, Instead, let's examine why this imbalance exists. It all boils down to societal norms and the roles that we've traditionally been assigned. You know, this good old-fashioned ideas that women belong in the kitchen and men in the office. You think that we've moved past that in 2024, but alas, some things linger like that stubborn, sticky spot on the kitchen floor that just refuses to budge. In many cultures, including our own brown British society, women have historically been seen as the primary caregivers and homemakers. These norms are often perpetuated by media, traditions, and yes, even well-meaning aunties who ask, "Beta, when will you learn to make a proper biryani?" Because apparently, knowing how to make a good biryani is the pinnacle of womanhood. Who knew? Now, nothing against biryani. I do think that everybody, irrespective of gender, should be able to make a good pot of biryani. But here's the thing. While we've seen progress, the echoes of these traditional roles still impact how labour is divided in homes today. Men are often seen as the providers, while women are expected to keep the home fires burning. Even in families where both partners work full-time, these traditional roles can subtly persist, leading to an uneven distribution of domestic responsibilities. The need for equality and equity. Here's where we need to shift the conversation from blame to change. It's not about criticizing men for doing less. It's about encouraging everyone to do more together. It's about equity, where everyone shares responsibilities fairly, and these tasks are distributed according to need and capability, not outdated stereotypes. Men, if you're listening, this is your moment to shine. Embrace those chores, get excited about cooking dinner, discover the joy of a freshly vacuumed carpet, and take up the challenge of doing laundry without turning everything pink. It is a learning curve, sure, but think of it as an opportunity to become a domestic god. And who knows, maybe you too will share my love for Zafloras. And ladies, if you think I'm letting you off the hook so easy, not so fast. We can be our own worst enemy. I'd like to point out, it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's more than okay. It's necessary. We need to normalize the idea that domestic duties aren't solely a woman's responsibility. So go ahead, hand over that duster. Delegate those tasks, yes, even the ones they know you don't want to do. And feel free to sit back with a nice cuppa while watching someone else fold the towels for once. And it doesn't matter if they're not doing it the way that you wanted them to. That's not the point here. The modern man's role. To our modern men out there, if you're listening, you have a pivotal role to play in this shift. It's about being proactive rather than waiting to be asked. Think yourself as the co-manager of your household, not just a guest who occasionally chips in. It's about seeing the tasks that need doing and doing them without being prompted. You know the magical feeling when you spontaneously buy flowers for your partner and she lights up with surprise and delight? Imagine that same feeling when you take over a task that usually falls on her shoulders. Surprise, delight, and possible fainting from the shock of it all. No, in all seriousness, jesting aside, modern relationships thrive on partnerships and equality. It's about having each other's backs and supporting one another in every aspect of life. So it's about sharing the joys and burdens equally, which then creates a harmonious and balanced household. The economic value of unpaid labour. I want to take a moment to talk about numbers. According to studies, unpaid labour significantly contributes to the economy. Yet, because it doesn't come up with a salary or a pay stub, it often goes unrecognised. In 2016, the Office for National Statistics estimated that unpaid household work in the UK was worth over £1 trillion a year. Yes, you heard that right. £1 trillion. That's more than the GDP of some countries. This invisible this invisible economy relies heavily on the work of often women that they do at home, which, if given proper value, would transform the way that we view domestic labor. Imagine if you could invoice for all those hours spent cleaning after family dinners. We'd be rolling in it. This economic perspective sheds light on how undervalued domestic work and caregiving truly is, and it challenges us to rethink how we perceive work, value, and contribution in society. Because by recognizing the financial worth of unpaid labor, we can then start advocating for policies and systems that better support those who undertake it. Creating a balance. Alright, so we've established that imbalance exists. We get it, Quarina. I hear you saying in the comments. We've acknowledged the invisible workload and highlighted the need for change. But how do we create balance in our homes and society? Well, communication is key. Open and honest communications between partners is crucial. Talk about the division of labor in your household. Discuss who does what and how you can make it more equitable, because sometimes it's as simple as having that conversation over dinner. 2. Share the mental load. Be aware of the mental checklist and share it. This means actively engaging in the planning and organizing of daily life. Be it remembering to buy milk or scheduling dentist appointment, take ownership of some of these tasks. It's not rocket science, I promise. 3. Educate the next generation. Let's teach our children about the importance of sharing responsibilities. Encourage boys and girls alike to take part in household chores from a young age. Let them know that everyone contributes, irrespective of gender. Who knew cleaning your room could be a lesson in equality? 4. Challenge stereotypes. Break free from traditional stereotypes. Challenge the notion that certain women's are women's work. And embrace the idea that anyone can take on any task and that partnership is the key to successful household. 5. Value domestic work. Recognize the value of unpaid labor. Whether it's advocating for policies that support caregivers or simply acknowledging the work that needs to be done at home, every bit counts. So let's start by giving domestic work the recognition that it deserves. Making progress. Progress may be slow, but it is happening. More and more households are recognizing the importance of sharing responsibilities. Younger generations are growing up with a different mindset, ones that value equity and fairness, and that, dear samosas, is a step in the right direction. As we navigate this journey towards balance, let us celebrate our wins, no matter how small that they are. Celebrate our partners who are stepping up and the women who are advocating for change. And not to sound like a weird politician, but together we can create a more equitable society, one household at a time. The future of unpaid labor. Looking ahead, where does the future hold for unpaid labor? Ideally, a society where the value of domestic work is recognized or appreciated and compensated. A world where gender roles in the household are no longer dictated by tradition, but by mutual agreement and respect. Imagine a world where women retire not just from their careers, from their household responsibilities too. A world where everyone, irrespective of gender, gets to enjoy the fruits of their labor without being weighed down by an invisible workload. As we wrap up this episode, I want to remind you that change begins at home. It starts with recognizing the true value of this unpaid labor, having open conversations, and working towards a more equitable future. It's about finding balance and fairness in our everyday lives. Thank you so much for joining me today on Bold Brown British. I hope this episode has given you some food for thought, maybe a chuckle or two, and the inspiration to make a difference in your own life. And together, let's keep the conversation going and work towards a brighter, more equitable future for everybody. Sending you love and spice. And cut. Oh gosh, perfect. Now, Ma, dinner jonno ki ache? Oh, Mikey, you made it till the end. I'm so happy. Well, listen, if you enjoyed what you heard and you want to hear more, subscribe to the podcast on, well, wherever you are listening to this. We are on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, TuneIn, Alexa, you name it, we're there. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. We also are on Instagram, which houses loads of behind-the-scenes audio snippets, polls, memes, and ways for you to get involved. So go follow us on Bold, Brown and British. That's the handle. And until next time, keep safe, my wonderful samosas.